friends, welcome back to my channel and another reading vlog. My name is Jessica if you're new here, and it has been a really long time since I filmed a reading vlog. My last reading vlog was back in January or February when I read Onyx Storm. It's not that I haven't been reading, I just haven't been filming me reading. My goal for this year is to read 50 books and I'm already at 20 or 21 or something like that. So that is way more than what I read this time last year, and I am stoked about it. Right now, I am currently reading Daydream by Hannah Grace. I have just about this much left. I want to say maybe like 2 more chapters. I'm on chapter 39. If you don't know, Daydream is the 3rd book in the Maple Hill series. That is the Icebreaker and Wildfire series. Love Icebreaker so much because it's spicy. It is just one of those books that is well known on the internet, I feel like, for being spicy. And then each book so far, it's gotten less and less spicy, but not less meaningful, if that makes sense. I feel like in Daydream, the story is the most meaningful and the one that I connect with the most. So that's why I am kind of dreading, ending it, because I don't want it to end. It typically takes me about a week to read a book, but I've been stretching this one out because I do not want to leave the world of Maple Hills and the world of Hallie and Henry. Hannah Grace's little dedication page said that this book was dedicated to all of the eldest daughters, and actually let me just read what it says. It says, "For the eldest daughters in my life, I see you, I appreciate you, and most important, I love you for who you are and not what you do for everyone." And you already know, I absolutely needed to highlight that because I am an eldest daughter and I felt this dedication so much. So thank you so much to Hannah Grace for writing this. And thank you so much for writing this book because it is exactly what I needed at this time. I am also reading Mile High by Liz Tom Ford. That is the 1st book in the Windy City series. It's a hockey romance. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm really excited for the whole entire series. I've heard such great things online and I'm excited. I'm really into romance books this year. I thought I was gonna read a little bit more fantasy and just expand my reading genres, but no, we are keeping it romance. So hopefully this video will stay reading romance off of my TBR cart, both physical and digital, because you guys, I have so many books and I am trying not to buy any more, and we just need to get through all of the books on the TBR cart. I only have 20, 10 of them are romance, but I have an additional 13 in my Kindle download bookshelf. So we have a lot to get through. We'll see how much we can get through in this vlog. I'm gonna finish getting ready for the day and then we will finish Daydream by Hannah Grace.
조금씩 자리 잡은 널 느낄 때면 괜히 잠을 설치고 괜한 이유로 내게 연락해. 매번 같은 실수를 반복해. 이런 마음이 익숙지 않아. 끝없이 생각에 빠져 허우적거릴 뿐이야. Why don't you make me smile? Why don't you tell me your heart? 이 순간만큼은 내게 You're my baby. Tell me now 이젠 매일 같은 시간 속에 나 이 자리에서 돌아오지 않는 너의 메아리를 기다려. Let me know if you have the same feeling as I do.
The next day, and I finally finished reading Daydream by Hannah Grace. I am so excited to talk to you guys about it. Obviously, I rated this book 5 out of 5 stars. If I could rate this book infinity stars, I would, but apparently my rating system doesn't go to infinity stars, and I don't know why, because this book was infinity stars to me. I loved it so much. I talked about this briefly yesterday. I was reading through this book really quickly, and then maybe the last 10 or so chapters, I slowed down a lot. Not just because, the story itself slowed down a lot, but because I wanted to savor it. I mean, I'm sure you can tell just by my smile. This is a genuine smile, you guys. I mean, my smiles are always genuine, but I am so in love with the characters in this book. Not just Henry, because he's been my favorite character since Icebreaker, but I'm also very much in love with Hallie. She is just everything. Like if Hallie was me in the book character, wait, what am I trying to say? First of all, if I was a book character, I would be Hallie. And if my story as an eldest daughter was being told, it would be Hallie's story. And I just identified so much with Hallie as an eldest daughter that I never expected to not necessarily heal, but just see so much of my life played out in the pages of a book. Not only that, Henry also really helped me to understand and just put into perspective the things about my anxiety and mental health that I cannot. You know, when people ask me if I'm doing okay or if I need something and I feel the need to shut down and just hide, my favorite thing to do when I have too much people time is to close up all of my windows, turn the air conditioning on, make everything extremely dark, and just camp out. Like, that's my favorite thing. And Henry did that often in this book, and it was so interesting to see it again being played out in the pages of a book. While I have heard of other people doing that, you know, drawing into themselves when they have too much stress, feeling the need to get away from everyone, I've never seen it in a way that can feel so healing and feel so understanding. So that's why I really loved this book. If you're looking for a book that is really spicy, I'm sorry, but this is not it. And you guys know I always talk about how I love spicy romance novels, and the spicier the better. But this, even though Icebreaker is pretty spicy, mostly because they just do it a lot in that book, this one is not. And there is like, you can't compare them fairly, you know what I mean? They are just not the same book. They are not the same level. They are just their own book. They cannot be on the same level. But yes, that is Daydream. I don't know what it is about this book. Actually, I lied. I do know what it is about this book. I just really enjoyed seeing myself, I guess, blossom, my story kind of blossom in these pages, even though it wasn't even about me. And I feel like that's what makes a book a really good book. For me, it's the ability to see myself in the pages and connect with the characters in a way that maybe I'm not really getting that connection in the real world. So love Daydream, 5 out of 5 stars, infinity stars if I could. I really, really hope that if you are an eldest daughter, or if you struggle with your mental health and spiraling and you people please, but you want to get out of it and you feel like you have no support, first of all, please reach out to someone. And second of all, I hope you decide to pick up this book, because it was everything and more that I needed, especially in this time in my life. So yeah, Daydream, you guys, such an awesome book. I loved it so much. Highly recommend. That's like the 3rd time I said that already.
Where are you? It's the end of the weekend, but I still wanna turn up. Yeah, I still wanna turn up. All I want is to go again, but you ain't picking your phone up. Why you messing my head up? Any night, any day, let me take you away. All I need is just saying yeah, 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 yeah.
Hello friends, it's been a couple of days since I last updated my reading vlog. I've completed 2 books since then. The first book is Mile High, and the second book is The Right Move. Both books are from the Windy City series by Liz Tom Ford. Let's start with Mile High, since that's book 1. Mile High is a rocky romance. Mile High is a hockey romance about Xanders, who is the main male character and the hockey player, and Stevie, who is the main female character / love interest / flight attendant for Xander's hockey team. The two of them fall in love with each other, but not without some issues that date back to their growing up, their personal lives before they even met each other. So all of that said, I don't want to spoil it for you guys, even though I feel like you guys can kind of guess what it is. It's very like textbook sports romance type of thing. I want to jump into my rating, because I feel like this is such an important thing to discuss, especially for the Windy City series, and maybe even any type of romance novel series. These are just things that I noticed over my time reading romance novels, which is my bread and butter. Mile High, I rated it 2 out of 5 stars. For me, the first book in the series is always the worst. Hear me out. Not all of them are the worst, but they are the ones that kind of really inspire the author to do better the next couple of books. Obviously, take all of this with a grain of salt because I am not an author, I am not an editor, and I don't know what the bookmaking process is like. I am just coming from a pure reader perspective. For me, Mile High was just one of those books that felt unclear. The story was there, but it needed some help being finessed. I feel like there were too many issues that each of the main characters had, and it could have been finessed and pared down for more clarity. And then I also felt like the story itself was 56 chapters and an epilogue way too long for a romance novel, you guys. Like, romance novels do not need to be over 45 chapters. For Mile High, the last 10 chapters really felt like it was going nowhere. The main female character had an issue, the main male character had an issue, and they just kept kind of like going round and round and round in circles, and there was no clarity as to like, will they, won't they? I don't even remember if they even broke up, if there was a third act breakup, because I was so focused and zoned in and irritated with how long this book was. And I feel so bad like rating it 2 stars because of how long it is. But there's always hope with first books and series, and the 2-star rating didn't deter me from reading the second book in the series. And I went on and I read The Right Move, which highlights Ryan Shea, who is an NBA player and the twin brother of Stevie from Mile High. And it also highlights Indy, who is the best friend and also a flight attendant with Stevie from Mile High. So there's some interconnectedness happening here. Now, I will say I wasn't too excited to read Ryan Shea's love story because he was mentioned in Mile High, and I don't know, he just didn't really spark any interest in me. And that's the good thing about interconnected series, is that you don't need to read them in order. But me, being the little like chronological order type of person I am, I do have to read them in order to understand the story. And I'm so glad that I read The Right Move next, because it was so much better than Mile High. At least to me, I ended up rating it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and that is great. I feel like all of my notes that I covered in Mile High was taken into consideration for The Right Move. Granted, this whole entire series was written a while ago, the last book in the series being released this year. So I am glad to see that she did change up. First of all, the length of The Right Move was like 10 chapters shorter than Mile High, and also that the story itself felt more clear. It read more clear. It felt so much more meaningful in that sense. I will say also that Indy is such a good character. Like, I can't imagine this series having any better characters than Indy Ivers. She is just perfection in the most human and broken way, and I felt so much for her. She was so vulnerable, so emotional, and it's very rare that we see that type of character in a sports romance. Those are the 2 books that I read recently. Right now I am finishing up the Ex Vows by Jessica Joyce. Jessica Joyce is such a great writer, especially about grief. I even just got her a Substack earlier this week, and it also talks about grief. So I think that's kind of like her bread and butter, like explaining grief in different ways, because it doesn't just have to be losing someone. It can be a lot of things in life that you grieve over, and she is such a good writer on that specific topic. Her writing is very reminiscent of like Emily Henry, Myri McFarlane. I don't know if you guys know of her, but she's a UK author. She just writes about life so beautifully and in detail and like metaphorically that it just makes me want to like cozy up and be like, oh, her writing makes my heart feel warm and fuzzy, because it's not every day that you read something like that. Georgia and Eli, who are the main characters in this book, they are experiencing kind of like I don't want to say second chance romance, because they haven't really gotten to that point yet in the book, but I do know from other people's reviews that this is a second chance romance, and their story is just so heartbreakingly real. It hurts to read it on the page, and I have to keep reminding myself that this is just words on paper, but tears have already been shed, and I am so connected to Georgia and Eli in a way that is like I'm obsessed with them. And you guys know I get obsessed with characters so easily, but it's very rare where I am like obsessed with them because their life is so beautiful. Their mistakes that they make is so beautiful. And this second chance romance, which I am personally not a fan of the theme second chance romance because it always reads so slow. This particular second chance romance is just so beautifully written that I could cry on every page, honestly. Yeah, that's my honest feelings about that. Like, I have not enough words to explain the feeling that the Ex Vows gives me, and I was a little worried because You with a View gave me such a visceral reaction that I wasn't gonna like the Ex Vows, but I've come to realize that I think Jessica Joyce is just gonna be always one of my favorite, romance novel writers, and there is nothing that she can write that I will be like, no, I don't like it, because I just connect with her. I think it's her life experience and the way that she writes and the way that she connects to her readers that makes me really love her writing. I need to finish the Ex Vows. I think I'm gonna finish it this week, so stay tuned. I will keep you posted on the Ex Vows.
나의 맘속에 I wouldn't change anything 이대로 시간을 돌린대도 나 지금 이대로 처음부터 소중히 담아온 나의 이야기 내게 달려가
Hello friends, I finished reading the Ex Vows by Jessica Joyce yesterday and it was so good. It was so good. I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. Again, I feel like this was an Infinity Stars book for me. Let's talk about the Ex Vows. Georgia and Eli, they are friends to lovers to exes to lovers again. I feel like that's not a spoiler because it's definitely on the back of the book. They meet, I want to say in the 6th grade, and they've been friends for 13 plus years at this point. They didn't really get together romantically until college. Jessica Joyce takes you through Georgia and Eli's life. It doesn't really cover like too much of their time together. This is mostly told in like Georgia's point of view 5 years after her and Eli's breakup. They are kind of being forced to be together because they have a mutual best friend whose name is Adam, and they are the best man and woman in his wedding, and Adam's wedding is just going crazy and they need to fix his wedding because things are going so wrong. It is actually comical at how wrong this wedding is going. Like, cursed is definitely, that's a good word to say at this point after reading this book, but there's something else happening. Georgia and Eli, they have to spend an outrageous amount of time together. 5 years after they broke up, they haven't really talked to each other, but they're being forced to spend this time together to make sure that their mutual best friend's wedding doesn't break down any more than it already has. They go to the one place that reminds them of their childhood and their romantic love and where they fell in love with each other, and they're forced to spend time with each other there, which, isn't really helping the situation because they didn't really get closure. The time that they spend there, opens up new feelings and a lot of deep emotions for the both of them. And I don't want to spoil it too much because I feel like I gave you like the gist of the story already. But Georgia and Eli, they spend all this time together and they realize how much they missed over the last 5 years, and they get to honor those feelings finally after 5 years, and they get to get some closure from each other in the most beautiful way possible. They are just the most beautiful couple, and so real, so messy, so broken. It is just, if you are into these types of stories, I highly recommend reading the Ex Vows or any Jessica Joyce story, really. She only has 2 books to my knowledge, so I really can't wait for her 3rd book to come out because she is just such a great writer. Again, one of my top favorite authors ever. So yeah, that is the Ex Vows by Jessica Joyce. I feel like I said her name so many times in this wrap up. I cried, maybe not as hard as I did with her first book, You with a View, but I definitely shed some tears. and it was so touching in all of the most beautiful ways. She took me from every different spectrum of feeling in this book, and I just loved it. I loved it so much. It was everything that I needed for the summertime. I just have to say that this cover right here looks like very innocent. Like, this looks like it's gonna be a fade to black situation, but let me tell you, there were a couple of moments in here where I was like, whew, it is getting hot in here. And I was not expecting that in this book, especially because, I don't know, I just felt like as second chance romance lovers, they had already lived that life, I guess. So I wasn't expecting it to be that spicy. I think I was very wrong for even just like thinking that, period. Anyway, luckily I did not read this too much in public. I didn't read a lot of the spicy parts in public because sometimes when I'm reading, especially like reading on the Kindle app on my phone, and I get to a spicy part and I cannot keep my face straight, you know, like I am full blown blushing all the time. And that was me in this book. Not only at the spicy parts, because you guys know I love a good spicy part, but at the most romantic parts and even the deepest, most meaningful sections of the book that just really dug into your heart, your core, your soul, I was blushing because Jessica Joyce is so good at writing about the human experience. Did I say that already? I feel like I did, but it's worth saying again. She is the best writer for writing about humanness, brokenness, grief. I love the way she writes about grief. It is just so heartwarming. This particular story wasn't about grief in the sense of like, oh, I'm grieving someone who died. This is more so about grieving the life you thought you were gonna have with someone, you know, losing someone in a partner, friendship type of way. And I feel like so many of us go through that, especially as we live out our 20s and maybe even going into our 30s, we start to realize that a lot of the plans that we had for ourselves aren't really coming to fruition, and that does a number on you. I know from experience that it's done a number on me, and it's taken me a lot of time and reflection to recover from that and grieve that and just feel those feelings that I have about the life that I thought I was gonna have and accepting the one that I do have. I hope you guys enjoyed this reading vlog. A lot of these books, they had very cute covers like this and Daydream and the Windy City series, you know, and they didn't really look like a lot of action was going to be happening in them. But let me tell you, it's the little pastel, painty, artistic looking covers that have the most spice. If you like this reading vlog, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And let me know in the comments below, what book did you pick up that you think was totally innocent and it ended up being actually really spicy? Want to know because I want to add it to my TBR. Anyway, I'm gonna go. We're gonna start reading another book. I got Every Summer After by Carly Fortune on my lineup, and then I also have Caught Up, which is the third book in the Windy City series by Liz Tom Ford. I'm gonna start reading those next. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I will see you folks in the next video. Bye!
Daddy, you're my girl.